Hi, so in this video I'm just going to talk about how I analyze the markets and how I make my price predictions on where I think the price of Bitcoin will go and what are my main steps into have a high accuracy. So what I like to do is start off on the large time frames so I can see the bigger picture, and clearly we can see we're extremely bullish at the moment these past few weeks. But these large price movements, I can see where they come from. So I'm initially drawn to this level here, which was a key liquidity sweep that happened. And this is what's basically fueling this current push up in price. And we are targeting this level up here. Now, I'm not going to go into detail why these are key liquidity points. That'll be in my private mentorship. But at the moment, that's all I can really give you. That they're key liquidity levels. And as we can see, recently we've created another liquidity level here that is also a key level, and that we've recently taken out. So that we've taken out this level, and it explains why we have gone up recently. So then what I like to do is drop into the lower time frames on the daily, and so we can see here that this once again is a key liquidity level from this low on the daily time frame. And once we took out these lows here, we can see that we had a nice push to the upside of around 10%. Now this daily move to the upside took out a daily liquidity level, and so then I was looking for next daily liquidity targets, and the next target was up here. Notice how price came exactly to that liquidity level before going lower. So that's how we know we were right, that it was a key liquidity level, because when price came to it, we obviously had a reaction, and a lot of bearish volume came in and pushed markets lower. So past few weeks, we've been looking in the free group. We've been looking and targeting this level here, this key level of liquidity, and this target has obviously been hit a few days ago. And you can see in the group here, we've been saying prices are targeting these upper liquidity levels. So we took out the lows and basically just wrote about it here. And once we took out that key liquidity level, we immediately had a large decline, because what price wants to do is take out a liquidity level on the large time frame. So for example, this was the 12-hour and the daily, and then it wants to target bearish liquidity. And the next bearish liquidity to target was down here on the 12-hour time frame, and was on the 4-hour time frame right here. And that's when I notified the group and basically just let them know that we might see some bearish prices from Bitcoin for the next few days. And we can see that, where was it, somewhere down here, basically said that Bitcoin's going to want to go for a push lower. So this was the initial kind of worst case scenario that would happen, would take out this key liquidity and push lower. But that is what I was hoping for to happen. And so we're obviously targeting that 27,000 level. And here were the targets. So 4 or 5% move. And if we go back to the charts, obviously we can see that had happened, right? We'd had that nice push to the downside. And so if the Bitcoin price wants to continue and go higher, we need it to obviously come down and take out a key level. So if I drop down on the 12-hour, we might have taken the daily liquidity high, which was up here, right here. And the targets for the daily are now down here and down here. For the daily time frame, these are our targets, and these targets aren't good. We don't want to see the price come back down to here. It's just more bearishness, and a lot of people struggle to make money in that type of market. But there is some good news that on the 12-hour time frame, we have taken out a key liquidity level, which was right here. And now this is a good chance to get in for some potential longs, and I will be looking for longs here. And I'll go over my entry signal and what I'll be doing. But now that we've taken this level, the next 12-hour liquidity level is here. So at minimum, I'm expecting price to come up from here around 3%. Now that's a good wee long you could catch. On a smaller time frame, you can get a good risk to reward. And so at the minimum, I'm expecting price to reach up into here. So if I drop down onto a smaller time frame, we can see it's also a key liquidity on the 8 hour, on the 4 hour. And so what we've created here is a textbook liquidity sweep. So we've kind of created some lows, taken out those lows, and so now we're looking for a SFP. So that's basically where you have in the retail space a support line. You got price coming up to a support, coming up to a support. It breaks the support. This is what retailers think. This is what, right? It's broken support. We're going short. We're going short. But in reality, what's happening? It's broken short support, and it's going to immediately come back up, retest it, and then continue higher. So that's the type of play I'm looking for here. Catch a long into these two liquidity levels. So if we drop down into a smaller time frame, so one of the longs was potentially here. So we got a breaker block here or a breaker block here. This is one of the entry models I like to use. And so you can just take a 50% of that, and that would be something along the lines of this. An entry here, stops below the breaker block, and your targets are up here. Now it's a 1 to 5 risk to reward. It's a pretty good trade. So that means for every dollar you risk, you'll if you get the full take profit, you'll make $5 back. So that's pretty good, especially if you're scaling that up. So that's what I'm kind of expecting at the moment from Bitcoin, to get a nice drive up into these highs, and then from there we can reassess. If we start to come up here and we create some more liquidity levels, such some lows, price can come back down and take out those lows and continue higher. But if we just get a straight up move into here without creating any liquidity, once we take out these highs, we're starting to look bearish again, and we might continue lower. And that would line up with our daily time frame, because the daily has taken out a key liquidity level, right? And so from this, we can expect price to go lower. Price doesn't have to go higher and reach up into the weekly target. This is our weekly target up here above at 32,000. Price can easily roll over, come back down, come deeper into liquidity, and then continue higher. It doesn't have to go in any particular order. It doesn't have to do certain things. So at the moment, what I'm trying to do is just predict level by level and move by move. I'm not trying to predict 6 weeks in advance. I'm just predicting is what I see and what's in front of me. And at the moment, what I see is a move down from this liquidity level up into these highs. And that's the only thing I'm confident at the moment, because that's what's in front of me. And that's a key thing to focus on. A lot of people, what they try and do is predict weeks and weeks in advance, or even days in advance. And they predict too far ahead, and they don't focus on what's in front of them. When you focus on what's in front of you, you're in the now moment rather than thinking in the later moment, because you can only act on what you see. And if you can't see into the future, then you can't really act on that. And that's where a lot of people fall behind. They predict too far into the future, and they create a false bias in their mind. Whereas if you always go off what you see, and in my instance, that's liquidity, that's one of the most important concepts for me. If I go off most recent liquidity, I can understand and know where price will go. And so move by move, that's all I do. And so we also had a Litecoin trade recently that was on here. I'll just pull it up, which was a pretty good trade. We caught some longs down from here. I don't know if you can see this, but I don't think you can. But anyways, I'll just go over it on this chart. We basically had super key levels that have been taken out. So if we start off on the daily, right, we had key levels. So initially, I notified the group members once we took out this week daily high, and I was basically expecting price to return to lower liquidity. Now, it doesn't need to be daily liquidity levels. It can be a 12-hour level before we revert and continue to the upside. So at minimum, I was expecting price to at least come down into here once we were creating some form of a pattern here, like the retailers like to see. I was expecting price to at least come into here. But overall, I was looking for price to come down into this key liquidity level here. Here's our key liquidity level that price perfectly came to. May have gone a bit lower, but if we go into a smaller time frame, it probably took out a even more important liquidity level. But for an entry model, if I zoom in here, once we took out all that key liquidity, one of the entry models is, again, an SFP. So we can see here, we can see a low, that'd be our support, right? This is our support that retailers see. Price break below that, recovered back above, created an SFP, and continued higher. And so that was a good entry model, and I sent that out into the group. Where was it? It'll be up a bit high. It was a while back. Here it is. So here was the Litecoin trade. I was getting in on the larger time frames. One of the entry models it was a Fibonacci retracement, and it's basically where you take the range high to range low, and we can see that price perfectly came down to the 618, and that was my entry. So then you go on to your 4-hour, 3-hour time frame, and you take a bullish candle, and then you take your stops, place it below, and you obviously place your price targets. Overall, it was around a 4.5 risk to reward trade that turned out pretty good. So here was the actual price prediction, and if we go down, it was right here. So price obviously continued out to full target, so that was a good 10% trade. And it's all using liquidity-based concepts. So no support and resistance, none of that rubbish you see where all the YouTubers just repeat the same stuff constantly. And it kind of just confuses everyone because you can basically draw a line anywhere on this chart. I could zoom out like this, draw a line anywhere on this chart. If I just grab the line and I draw a line here, I can guarantee you that at some point in time it was support or resistance. So if I go out on the 12-hour time frame, look at that. So that line I randomly drew, at some point in time it was support and resistance. We can see that it was resistance here. We can see that it came down, it was support here, it gave us a push up. We can see it was support here, it was support here. It broke support, came back over, and then continued higher. So it's basically a pointless level that you can draw anywhere on the chart, and it'd basically be either a support or resistance level. And that's why I don't like using support and resistance, because it's going off past price action, which is irrelevant, rather than thinking about what's happening in the current moment. And that's why I like to use liquidity-based concepts, because you think about the now rather than the later. And that's what's important, thinking about what's happening now rather than looking at what's going to happen in 6 weeks' time. So if you found this video somewhat informative, or you learned something new, I'll put my free Telegram group in the description. And if you'd like to join that, I post free daily updates, what trades I'm taking, my analysis, my thoughts. The reason I'm putting it into a YouTube video is because I can't put all my thoughts out onto a chart. I feel like in a video I can describe more of what I think is going to happen. So when this plays out, or when it doesn't play out, I'll give you guys an update, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching.